Welcome to my channel. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Story 1. Back when I was a kid, I used to live in Laos. Man, those days were something else. It was always hot, and I mean hot. You couldn't go through a day without sweating through your clothes. And honestly, when you're young, all you care about is cooling off. So on this one day, my friends and I were dying from the heat, and we got this great idea. Well, it seemed like a great idea at the time, to go deeper into the mountains and hit up this lake we'd heard about. We didn't think much of it. It wasn't that far off, maybe like an hour's walk or so. We had done that kind of thing 1,000 times before, climbing hills, running through the trees, that sort of thing. There was always something cool to explore, and we were pretty wild, you know? Anyway, that day, we were desperate for some water to jump into. So we packed up some snacks, grabbed whatever we could find, and took off. We got to this lake, and I remember how weird it looked. The water was black, not dark blue, not green like the other lakes we'd seen. It was straight up black, like you couldn't see the bottom. And honestly, I wasn't sure if there even was a bottom. But we didn't care. We were sweaty and tired, and the water was calling to us. It looked cold and inviting, and we just needed to cool off, you know? I don't remember who jumped in first, probably my buddy Pao. He was always the first to do stupid stuff. I guess he made it look so fun that before I knew it, I was running and diving in too without even thinking. The water hit me, and it felt so good, cold, fresh. We were laughing, splashing around, acting like idiots. It was just one of those days where nothing could go wrong, but that's the thing about days like that, right? When everything seems too perfect, something's bound to happen. After a while, I was just floating around, feeling the water, trying to relax. That's when it happened. My legs brushed against something. At first, I thought it was just a rock or maybe a log, you know, something natural. But then it moved. It wasn't a big move, just a shift, but I swear I felt it. It was like this slow, deliberate motion against my leg. I froze for a second. You know that feeling when something doesn't feel right, but you're not ready to admit it yet? That was me. I told myself it was just a fish or some underwater plant, but deep down, something wasn't sitting right. And then I saw it. It was under the water, but just barely. I could make out this long, pale shape moving beneath me. At first, I thought maybe it was a fish or something, but then it started to rise up a little, just enough for me to get a better look. It wasn't a fish. It was I didn't know what it was. It had a neck, a long, thin neck. I swear to you, that thing was 3 or 4 feet long, just stretching up from the blackness of the water like it was reaching for something. I couldn't see the body. It was still too deep, but that neck was enough. It was pale, almost glowing under the water, and it moved slowly like it had all the time in the world. No rush, no panic, just this smooth, creepy glide. I couldn't take my eyes off it, but my mind was racing. What the hell was that? My first instinct was to get out of there, but I was frozen. I didn't even know how to process what I was seeing. I tried to tell myself it was a trick of the light, that maybe I was just imagining things. But the thing is, I wasn't. I saw it. I felt it. Suddenly the neck jerked up toward me faster than I expected, and that's when I saw it. The face. Oh my God, that face. It was the scariest thing I'd ever seen in my life. It wasn't human, that's for sure. Its skin was pale like death and stretched tight over its skull like it had been underwater for way too long. The eyes, if you could even call them eyes, were these empty dark holes, but somehow I could feel them staring right into me like they were digging into my soul. Its mouth was this gaping hole, too wide, too wrong. It was like it had been stretched or pulled back, and the teeth, greenish and jagged, were exposed like it had never stopped grinning in its miserable existence. My whole body went cold. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. That face, it was like looking at something that wasn't supposed to exist, something out of a nightmare that had crawled out of the dark just to mess with me. And it wasn't just the way it looked. It was the feeling it gave me, this overwhelming sense of dread, like I was staring at death itself. I panicked. I kicked my legs hard, trying to push myself away, but in the water, you can only move so fast. I didn't dare look back down. All I could think about was getting out of there. My heart was pounding so loud I swear it drowned out all the sounds around me. I shouted for my friends, but no one else seemed to notice. They were still goofing off, splashing around. It's like they didn't even realize what was under the water. I wanted to scream at them to get out, to move, but the words wouldn't come out right. My throat felt tight, and the only thing I could do was swim as fast as I could toward the shore. I finally made it to the edge, gasping for air like I'd just run a marathon. My body felt heavy, like something was pulling me back toward the water, but I didn't look. I didn't want to see that neck and that face again. I just scrambled out onto the dirt. When I finally got my feet on solid ground, I jumped up and shouted loudly with all my might for them to get out of the water. My friends stopped splashing and looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I could see the confusion on their faces, but they could hear the panic in my voice. That was enough. One by one, they scrambled out of the lake, stumbling onto the shore, looking at me wide-eyed like, "What the hell, man?" They came running up to me, all out of breath, asking, "What's wrong? What happened?" I couldn't even catch my breath at first, my heart still hammering in my chest. But I had to tell them. I had to get the words out, so I pointed at the water and started spilling everything that had just happened. The long neck, the face, those eyes that looked right through me. I remember Pow's face going pale, and that guy's always the brave one. But when I finished talking, everyone just went quiet. No one laughed it off, no one joked around. They could tell I wasn't making this up, and honestly, none of them wanted to go back in to see if I was wrong. We grabbed our stuff and booked it out of there, didn't even bother to look back. I think deep down, none of us wanted to know if that thing was still watching us from beneath the surface. We never went back to that lake. It's funny, after that day I never looked at water the same way again. Every time I see a lake or a river, I think about that neck, about how it moved so slowly under the water, about how it felt against my leg. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen, and honestly, I hope I never see it again. Story 2. I'm in my 40s now, but I lived in Laos when I was younger. Back then, life was simple. You know, I didn't have much, but I didn't really care. My girlfriend, she lived about an hour or so away from me, and we'd see each other whenever we could. I didn't have a car or a bike or anything, so I just walked to her place. No big deal. The walk was actually kind of nice during the day, but at night, yeah, that was a whole different story. So one day, I went to see her. It was a regular day. We hung out, talked, laughed like we always did. I wasn't in any rush to leave. You know how it is when you're with someone you love. Time just flies, and before I knew it, the sun was setting. I should have left earlier, but I didn't want to. It's hard to walk away from someone who makes you feel like that. You get me? Eventually it got late and I realized, oh man, I gotta go. But by then it was already getting dark outside. I didn't really mind though. I've walked home in the dark before, no big deal. It's just the same road, right? What could go wrong? The path I always took was pretty straightforward. It was mostly dirt surrounded by trees and fields. Sometimes there'd be a house or two along the way, but not much else. The moon was out that night, so I could kind of see where I was going, but you know how it is when it's dark. Your mind starts seeing stuff, making shadows look like all sorts of things. Anyway, I started walking, thinking about her the whole time. My head was full of her smile, the way she talked, all that cheesy stuff. I wasn't paying much attention to anything else, just putting one foot in front of the other. The night air was cool, and the world around me was quiet, too quiet now that I think about it. I kept walking, and after a while, I felt this weird sensation running down my body. It was like the air got colder, or maybe it was just in my head, but I kept having this feeling that something was off. You ever get that? Like, when the hairs on the back of your neck stand up for no reason? That's what it felt like. I tried to ignore it, kept my pace steady, but man, it just wouldn't go away. I thought, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I'm thinking too much. But then I heard it, this weird slurping noise, like I can't even explain it properly. but it sounded like someone dragging something wet across the ground. It wasn't loud, but in the quiet of the night, it was all I could hear. My heart started racing a bit, but I told myself, nah, it's just some animal or something. Maybe a dog dragging something. I didn't want to believe it was anything else, but then I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, there was this figure. Short, maybe as tall as a child, but it wasn't a kid, no way. The thing was just standing there in the middle of the path looking right at me. I couldn't see its face at first, just the outline of it like a shadow. I stopped walking. My legs just wouldn't move. I didn't even want to look directly at it, but my eyes couldn't help it. Slowly, I turned my head and looked straight at it. That's when I saw its tongue. This thing, this ghost, had a tongue that reached all the way down to the ground. It just hung there, limp and lifeless, touching the dirt. And its eyes. Oh man, its eyes were these hollow pits. I couldn't even see pupils, just empty holes staring right through me. I swear I've never felt fear like that before. My legs felt like they were made of stone, and my mouth went completely dry. For a second, we just stood there, me and the ghost. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, but I could still hear that slurping noise, like the sound was coming from its tongue dragging against the dirt. I couldn't even think straight. My brain was trying to make sense of what I was seeing, but nothing added up. I should have run, but I was frozen. Then, out of nowhere, it started moving. Slowly, real slow, it took a step toward me. Its feet, or whatever they were, didn't make a sound. The only noise was that disgusting slurping as its tongue dragged behind it. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. My whole body was paralyzed. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears like it was going to explode out of my chest. Step by step, it came closer, and the closer it got, the more I could see its face pale, almost gray, like it had been drained of all life. Its mouth was half open, and I swear I could see sharp, rotting teeth inside. And that tongue, it was so long, longer than any human tongue should be. It was just wrong. All of it was wrong. It got about 5 feet away from me when something inside me snapped. My legs finally listened to me, and I stumbled backward. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to get away from it. I ran as fast as I could past it. I didn't look back, didn't even think about looking back. All I could hear was my own breathing and the pounding of my feet against the dirt. The slurping sound faded the farther I got, but I didn't stop running. I didn't stop until I saw the faint shadow of my house up ahead. By the time I reached my door, I was out of breath, gasping for air. My chest hurt. My legs felt like jelly, but I made it. I slammed the door behind me and locked it, like somehow that would keep the ghost out. I didn't sleep that night. I sat there in my room staring at the door, half expecting that thing to come slithering in with its long tongue, but it never did. The night passed, and by morning, I was still sitting there wide-eyed, still shaking. I knew I had to say something, so I told my parents. At first, they looked at me like they weren't sure what to think, but then my dad nodded. He didn't question it, didn't say I was imagining things. I think he knew. My parents knew what to do. In Laos, stuff like this, it's not uncommon. Spirits, ghosts, they're part of life, you know? So my dad called some of the elders, and they set up a ritual that same day. They told me that when you run into a ghost like that, sometimes it can mess with your spirit. It can get stuck or wander off, so they had to call my spirit back. I didn't really understand all the details, but I went along with it. I figured it couldn't hurt, and honestly, after what I saw, I wasn't taking any chances. The ritual was pretty simple, but I could feel something was happening. They lit incense, said a bunch of chants, and made offerings. They were serious about it too, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Afterward, they said everything would be okay, that my spirit was back where it belonged. I felt a little better, but part of me still couldn't get rid of the image of that ghost and its long tongue. After that night, I still visited my girlfriend, but I didn't mess around with walking home late anymore. No way. I only went during the day, made sure I left long before the sun started to set. And honestly, it was worth it. I still got to see her. and I didn't have to worry about running into anything spooky on the way home. Fast forward a few years, and guess what? That same girl who lived an hour away from me in Laos, she's lying next to me right now here in America. She's my wife. After all these years, we're still together. I guess all those walks, all the effort, it paid off in the end. It's funny how life works out like that. We went from living in different villages in Laos to starting a whole new life together on the other side of the world. Every now and then when we're lying in bed, I'll think back to that night. I'll look at her and smile, knowing that no ghost, no matter how terrifying, could have kept me from being with her. But still, I'm never walking home in the dark again. Ever. Some things you just don't forget. Thank you for listening to this video. I'll see you in the next one.